Believers, it's a sunny day today. I'm using this pillow over here so I can lean against the wall. I just had my lunch and I thought, let's make another video about decrees. And in this video, I'm teaching you how to decree against, how should I call it? I want you to decree against black magic operations. And how do you do that? You do that by targeting the root of the agenda. So when you decree against a black magic operation, you target the root of the agenda. That comes down to the following. You don't go out and decree just repercussions on the harassment that's going on. The harassment is the fruit. What is the root? The root is the population wants to be left alone, but they also want everything to function properly. So the population is delusional, that's the root. And now they seek supply for their delusion. And because you don't match their delusion, now they assault you. But too often, we focus only on the assault. But the assault is the fruit of that stronghold, that high imagination that they're clinging onto. So, we need to learn to deal with the root. For example, if you are the victim of gang stalking is all about a population diverting attention away from what requires attention. And what requires attention is the social relationships. So what you say is something, so what you decree is something as follows. I command every delusional stronghold within this population to be smashed to pieces. And I command every filthy secret of this community to be brought to the light and to be consumed by fire, by holy fire in Christ Jesus' mighty name. You decree such stuff. And now, I still feel the urge to teach more about this. So, you don't know that when you are decreeing against a black magic operation, you deal with the root of the agenda. So, in line with this, I need to explain the following. The world doesn't want you to know that you have spirit abilities. They can't get around this because we're all spirit beings, but they want you to operate like an advanced animal. That's what society wants. Because, think about it this way. Let's say you have a scam artist, okay? He has no money, he has no credentials, he has no degrees, he has nothing. But he comes and expects people to just make life easy for him. He wants to get everything for free from everyone without having to give anything of value in return. How can he get away with it? Now, you can pick up a gun, enter into a store, and rob the store. Because he has a gun, people are forced to comply with him. Or maybe he doesn't want to do that because that will be putting his body in danger and he doesn't want to die. So he may go online and scam people online through dating sites. That is another option. Or he can set up a charity foundation. People donate because it tricks people into pity for some disaster that happened or some poor children in Africa or Asia or whatever. And that's how he can get the cash for free. But still, he needs to put all the effort in. There is another way this scam artist will succeed in getting things from people at their expense for his benefit. There's a way for him to get away with exploiting everyone without having to deal with the consequences. So, if he wants to be able to exploit people and build out from the consequences, he needs the following. He needs the agreement of the victims in the scam. Because if you walk into a store with a gun, just like that, and you begin to threaten people, there's no consent nor investment from those people in what's going on. So they rightfully can tell you to F off, or if you get away with it, they can rightfully demand prosecution from the authorities on you. If you go online and you make false dating accounts, and then you withdraw money from people, you trick people into something that they wanted. So you use their desires against them. But still, you can be charged because it was a false investment. So you defrauded them. So they can use it against you. Or if you set up a fake charity foundation, you get investment from people, but you misled them. So they use it against you. But the moment you can trick people into investing in the scam, now you have a leverage over them and you can use their own investment against them. So it goes like this. On a dating site, if you put the picture of a beautiful, attractive woman or some model and some guy falls for it, you use someone else's image to trick someone else. And if you did it to get money out of them, you intentionally misled someone. There's an investment from the individual in something that doesn't exist. So their investment was not in you. It was in that other individual who doesn't even know that victim exists. Okay? If it's a fake charity foundation, people invested for real in something that was valuable, but a valuable thing does not exist. You tricked them. But let's say now you just want to get things from people and you don't want to be able to account for it, and you're very direct about it. Let's say you openly say that stuff as, I don't owe anyone anything, or the world doesn't owe you anything. You make it a bit collective. What you're actually saying is you don't want any responsibilities towards others. But at the same time, if people would do something that would hinder you or endanger you, you'd be upset. But you say you don't owe anyone anything. From that point on, people should stand up and tell you, hold on a minute. What are you saying you don't owe anyone anything? Oh, so that means also that we don't owe you anything either. So if you go to work and your boss refuses to pay you, he doesn't owe you anything. Also, if someone has been shot here and he's bleeding on the street, so you don't owe me anything, so you just allow me to die. You don't call the ambulance. The moment he comes with a narcissistic decree, because that's what it is, people should automatically counter it with right decree, saying, if someone says, I don't owe anyone anything, ours has a decree, you do owe people stuff. You're part of the community, so you're obliged to comply with the safety and well-being of the community, as we are also obliged to comply with your safety and your well-being. People should immediately counter it. Not fight it, but to counter it. When he decrees, I don't owe anyone anything, he is enforcing violence, or she's enforcing violence. So he's operating in lack. Sooner or later, he will crash. So why does he mention it that he doesn't owe anyone anything? Because he wants others to comply. Nobody in the right mind should comply with that. But let's say now, someone says, I don't owe anyone anything. And let's say other people agree, either silently or they actually agree with it. Later, when that same individual neglects the community and others begin to complain, he can tell them, but hold on a minute, I told you I don't owe you guys anything, right? And you guys validated, you guys invest in it. So why are you complaining? Now, he's wrong, he owes them something, okay? But he now can use their agreement or their investment in what he decreed against them. And other people around can also say, okay, but when this guy said he doesn't owe you guys anything, you should have corrected the situation immediately. You should have shown him he does owe the community something. So you guys agreed with him not owing you guys anything. So now that he's abusing and harming the community, now you want to be upset. So you enabled harm on your own community by agreeing with him against your own well-being. So you are a participant in his violence. You're a participant and an enabler of his violence, which is correct. So now, the people that enabled his narcissistic decree, they now have to face themselves, give an account, repent, and become better people. But this is what happens in the world. When worldlings agree with a narcissistic decree, and later that enablement causes harm, they don't want to take responsibility for the harm that happened. They all want to defend themselves. They all want to avoid the situation. And a lot of scam artists know this. That's why you have people who are so confident decreeing their violence. Why? Because if they would just do it, just neglect the community, people say, hey, what are you doing? But if he decreed it over and over again and people enabled it and agreed with it, now people can just come up against him because they're guilty also, they're participant also in his violence. And that's how Satan does it. So society as a whole does this to you. Now, it depends where you're born, how it's done. I mean, Chinese society does it different than Korean society. Zimbabwean society does it different than Brazilian society. So it depends on which society you grew up and in which era, but all societies do this. All societies trick you to invest in their narcissistic decrees. A narcissistic decree is a statement that you are your own God and that others have nothing to want nor to say about your will. Your will, what you want, is sovereign. Nobody has anything to want nor to say. Whatever you do, you have your reasons. People have to find a way to deal with it. That's a narcissistic decree. Now, society, as a collective, has many narcissistic decrees that it throws out there. Privacy, private lives, boundaries, personal space, it's none of your business, stay in your own lane. There are so many narcissistic decrees that society throws out there. And those narcissistic decrees suggest that you're entitled to control. And worldlings, they are addicted to control. So, whenever you hear those narcissistic decrees in society, don't fall for them. Because the moment you fall for any of those narcissistic decrees, you have invested in it and you are a participant in that violence. In that violence. And once you are a participant in that violence, demons have a hold on you. And once demons have a hold on you, you begin to attract curses and all kinds of demonic cycles towards you. That's why when someone is venting frustration, don't just agree with what they say. Show empathy, show understanding when it's appropriate, but don't automatically agree with what they're saying. Because you have narcissists who abuse other people, and those people kick them out, and now they're murmuring, complaining because they can't get away with abusing, and they are playing the victim. And when they play the victim, they are decreeing that they don't owe anyone anything. They do it in a corporate. They even say something as, they may say something as follows: that let's say you have a woman who used to narcissistically abuse her husband, and the husband kicked her out, and she may say something as, I was always so good to him. He will never find someone like me. Or she will begin to put herself on this pedestal as if she has no explanation to do on her part. Now look, if you're walking down the streets and someone loses his mind and stabs you, there's no explanation on your part at all because this is the individual. But if you've been involved with someone for years, there must be some explanation on your part why you stay with that individual if that individual is so dangerous. But narcissists who play the victim, they will always put themselves on the pedestal as if they have no explanation to give. They do this by playing the victim to get sympathy from you. And the moment you fall for that, you are in agreement with their narcissistic decrees. And later, they will use this against you. Now, for example, let's take an example of one way society. I'm going to use the example of Dutch society as well as American society. In the Netherlands, also Belgium, and to some extent the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, you have this party called Sinterklaas with Black Peter. There's a lot of controversy about it. This, let me explain shortly. Yeah, the celebration goes like this. It's for little children. You have this Catholic bishop from Spain who has a bunch of black slaves, and every year around his birthday, he goes to across Europe, including the Netherlands, and he will reward children that behaved well, and he will kidnap children that behaved badly. His slaves would break into your house of your parents and put you in a sack, kidnap you. Okay? So you have this grown old man who's rich and wealthy, with no wife, no kids, a bunch of black slaves, and he is interested in little children. That's very disturbing. But children are told, if you behave well, Santa Claus is going to give you some candy or some gift in your shoe. So children put their shoes and wait for Santa Claus. Of course, when they're 7 years old, people tell them Santa Claus doesn't exist, but just a game. And a lot of them just unlearn it and they move on growing in their childhood and also in their teenage years. In the United States, you have another variant which derives from this, which is called Santa Claus. There they replace the black slaves with elves, which are evil spirits. And they portray and they replace Santa Claus with Santa Claus, which is another version of Baal, a fallen prince, a fallen angel. So whether it's Santa Claus in the Netherlands or Santa Claus in the United States, or maybe in other places have another variant of it, it comes down to the following. You're told that a stranger is more interested in your well-being than people around you. And the stranger is willing to reward you, but he can also turn on you. Well, with Santa Claus, there's no kidnapping going on, but in the Dutch version there is. But let's forget the Dutch version. You're told a stranger cares about you and is willing to reward you if you behave well to the people around you. Okay, let's decode this for a moment. You tell little children who are in formative years that this stranger is more interested in them than their own people. So why isn't it it should be the parents and the community that rewards the children? Not some stranger that comes from Spain or from the North Pole. Okay? But if you tell this to a child that there is a reward, of course a child wants the reward. And the child is not able to discern the agreement it's entering, because it's an agreement. So the child agrees to behave, to give what others want to get a reward. The child has no direct relationship with a stranger. He relies on what the community says about the stranger. And who benefits from the rewards? Not the child, because the rewards are not long-term. It's community. The community wants something from the child, namely that the child is pleasant and the child doesn't bother anyone else. So they want the child to comply. So one way to trick the child into complying is by telling the child there's this man that's interested in you. Please behave well towards us and he will reward you. And then you tell the child the man doesn't exist. Just like that. This is a psychological trauma on the child. It puts a stigma on the child that the child is not worthy of the truth. Now look, there's nothing wrong with having a party for children. There's nothing wrong with having a cute fairy tale for children, as long as you don't go so far as to psychologically stigmatize a child just because you want something from the child. So actually the child, in this case, is being taken advantage of. Because if the parents were honorable and the community kept the parents in check, no such thing as Santa Claus or Santa Claus would be needed. The child would be joyful in wanting to comply with the parents and the community. The fact that you need to come with a trick to trick the child into being pleasant shows you that otherwise the child wouldn't be pleasant. And why wouldn't the child want to be pleasant to you if the child depends on you? That means there's something wrong with you. So it shows that many people, parents, relatives, and all, they have issues they don't want to face, and the children notice these issues. Children notice things. But the older people don't want to be confronted with their own nonsense. So they especially want a child to notice it. So they want to distract the child so the child makes things easy for them. So they gaslight the child when the child finds out Santa Claus or Santa Claus does not exist, and even tell the child, come on, you're getting older, you shouldn't believe such stuff. Okay, but if I should not believe such stuff, why did you tell me when I was younger? So that is a form of narcissistic initiation by society. What is the decree behind this? The decree is make it easy on us. The decree is when we don't get what we want, you're in trouble. That's the decree. That's the enforcement. But they kind of beautify it by saying, be a good kid and Santa Claus will reward you. It's reverse of being a good kid simply means we have expectations. Give in to our expectations or else you're going to miss out on this good thing. This Santa Claus is coming, is going to give gifts to a lot of children, and if you don't make it easy on us, you're going to miss out on something. So you don't actually threaten the child directly with spanking or with whatever, but you hint that the child will lose something. And the child doesn't want to lose. The child is a social creature, and the child needs social connection with others. So if the group wins and the child loses, the child already feels traumatized by it, so the child wants to comply. It works. But here's the thing. You train the child to become the victim of predators later on. That's what you're doing. This is something quite serious. I never believed in Santa Claus, and all of that. I knew evil spirits existed from afar since I was a kid. So I could see through all those pagan celebrations. I could. Many other children couldn't, but I didn't ruin it for them. I knew Santa Claus, and those figures are not real. Or they're derived from evil spirits, that the evil spirits are real, but I knew that the figures themselves were not real. And I also participated in the celebration, all of that was fun, but when you're older, you begin to think, what is this? Well, the same thing they do with the celebration of Santa Claus, the same thing, that's how society works in general. Society love bombs you. Just like when you tell a child, there's this man coming with gifts. You may lose your opportunity for a gift if you don't give in to what we want, namely make it easy on us. Okay, that's love bombing. The child is overwhelmed with the promise of there's going to be a gift. Now, because there is literally something there, a present or something a kid wants, the kid thinks it's real. But later the child realizes that those gifts are short-lived. Of course they are. So, it's a type of future faking in which there is some crumbs thrown at you, but the real good, that means the social inclusion, is missing. Because you're told later that it was all a hoax. So, that's what society does to people. Society love bombs you with celebrities, successful people, and success stories. And you get a suggestion, make it easy on those around you, so that they don't kill you, so that they won't harm you, so that they won't reject you. And when they're happy with you, this is going to work out fine for you. And on your way, you get crumbs. You get your high school diploma, you may get your college degree, you may have some clubs you can join, some fraternity, sorority, or you may join some church organization or some other religious organization. So there are crumbs that you receive by society. But sooner or later you realize those crumbs are very short-lived. You want the real long-term inclusion. But then you're told, no. You thought it was really that easy? Just going to school, get a degree, and things going to work for you? No, you need to work hard. You need to prove yourself. Now they're gaslighting you, just like the child was told Santa Claus is real. You behave well, you get the rewards. Later tell the child it's all a hoax. The same as society does to all of us in general. Then you get additional conditions that you need to fulfill. And it becomes more and more and more. And before you know it, decades go by and you die before your time because you're so exhausted by pleasing society and getting nothing valuable on the long term in return for it. That's how it goes. So, when we as believers, when we deal with worldlings, we need to understand those people are gaslighted. Those people have been lied to. They've been scammed. They've been hoaxed by society. And here's one thing you need to understand about someone that has been lied to. If someone withholds information from you and if for the right reason you don't mind it, okay? But let's say now, for example, let's say there's a homicide investigation. But later, you as a detective find out that one of your detectives was having a sexual affair with one of the suspects. And then your colleague tells you, well, it's none of your business what I do with my body. What's going to happen? Even the judge would say, no. That guy was a homicide suspect, okay? You were sexually involved with the guy, so you, as a woman, you were seeking validation from him, so you were enabling him to know what was going on with the investigation. So if he was the perpetrator, or knew more about it, you endangered the investigation and you hindered the course of justice. You would go to jail. The whole idea is none of your business, which is also a narcissistic statement, doesn't work. Nobody will take it. But if your parent will do something out of line, talk negative behind your back, and you ask your parent about it, your parent says none of your business, you should mind your own business, whatever, there's also a narcissistic statement, but because this is some type of violence that's more accepted by the community, people don't do something about it. But it's the same thing. It only depends who is entitled to enforce consequences. If it's a homicide investigation and you are messing around with a suspect, you can go to prison because the judge is entitled to put consequences on you. If a parent does something that's out of line, people say, well, he pays rent, people come with excuses to defend it. Okay? So, when someone has been lied to, when someone has invested in something, and later, one day, all at once, it all crashes down, at that point, the individual is dangerous. That's why there are people who know stuff, who figure things out, but they won't tell you, because they know that if they would tell you and inform you, your mental stability would crash down and nobody knows what you would do then. If you invest your whole being and all your effort, yes, sleepless night, you went through all of that for an outcome that's not real, and all people all around you knew it wasn't real, but they kept you in that hoax it was real to take advantage of you. When that cracks down on you, you snap. And there are people, when they snap, others get hurt. They hurt themselves and others. People explode. And that is why Christ also told us to shake the dust off our feet when people don't want to submit to the truth. When people don't want to submit to the truth, they don't want to submit to healing nor deliverance, it's because they don't even want to admit they're in bondage. They don't even want to admit that they are trapped. They don't even want to admit they're lost. Such people, they have to face the fact that whatever security it is they're invested in, whatever bound, whatever restriction they cling on to, because that's all worldlings have, restrictions, they need to face that those restrictions are just restrictions. But to face that, they would have to give up all their investments. When they're not willing to give up their investments and they're confronted over and over again, it's a hoax, they'll explode. And they'll blame the individual that revealed that it's a hoax, instead of blaming the people that lied to them and enabled them in those scams. So, society will love bomb you and future fake to you just to get things out of you. They do this to get your investment in the scam, so that later they can use it against you. And by you investing in the scam, now they have a leverage over you. They can set you up more easily because of that. So beware of narcissistic decrees and future faking. Love bombing is a term often used on YouTube very loosely. I just explained what it is. Love bombing is when you suggest great outcomes to someone in exchange for their allegiance. But you do it in such a way that you trick them into investing in those outcomes, while you know very well that those outcomes are not going to happen. When God comes, He enforces good outcomes to us, and it's our duty to receive. That's how God does it. When Satan comes, Satan doesn't really have the power to enforce, so Satan has to trick us into agreeing with what he promotes. Because what he promotes, he cannot give. So Satan is a scam artist, so he doesn't have the strength to enforce because he has nothing really to enforce. So that's why he needs to trick you into it. So Satan has to love bomb. Christ enforces, Satan love bombs. Because Satan needs you to be tricked and to be part of the deception so that he can drain you. God doesn't need you, so God enforces. So this whole idea in the world, they should never force anything on anyone, is not true. God enforces salvation and righteousness and absolute joy on the earth. And all those that persist in darkness will be removed to the lake of fire, where their misery will haunt them forever. God enforces. And Christ told us to go out and make the whole world unto his disciples. So we enforce as believers. We don't care whether people want it or not. If they keep resisting, we shake dust off our feet, and that will backfire on them. They have nothing to want nor to will, because the earth is the Lord's. We enforce. Satan is illegitimate here on the earth, so he has to trick you into the deception because he needs your strength in order to be relevant. So that's why he love bombs you. So beware of narcissistic decrees, love bombing, and future faking. Be at peace.